what does it look like in your life as far as applying those things?
Mm-hmm.
What are you dining on? What are you consuming for yourself, to care for yourself and the dreams the Lord has for you?
Mm-hmm.
I had this really interesting post from a friend of mine the other day. She had lost a kind of a spiritual mother.
Mm-hmm.
And strangely enough, her mother had passed on the same day that this woman did. So
Oh, wow.
the anniversary of her passing was the same day. And she had this dream that when her mother passed away, that the Lord gave her this very elaborate scene of her mom at the banquet table with the Lord and with all of these people that had that she had contributed to their life somehow.
Oh, wow.
You know, that she had touched their life somehow, and that she had this amazing crown, and that she was like dressed in just regal splendor,
Mm-hmm.
and that she's surrounded by all of these people that she's impacted in her life. And I thought, you know, we don't always think about the banquet table as being, or as we've talked about it in our conversations with the book, we're talking about it on this side of heaven, and where we are now, that we can be communing in that space with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved this notion that not only is it that space, but I think that sitting in that space also prepares a way for your heavenly banquet table and what that would be like. And this notion that, okay, that's part 2 of this whole thing, is that there's all these lives that you're impacting, because that is what we're talking about in this chapter on the Come and Eat, is, you know, the dreams that the Lord has for you. Well, your dreams impact all those other people. Yeah,
do.
Absolutely.
They
So
do.
I just love this notion of that. And I feel like it really gives you pause, right? To think, okay, what am I dining on? What am I taking down in large amounts? For me, I feel like I'm probably dining a lot on things that do not satisfy. And I've been really trying to look at that ever since we've been in this chapter.
Ooh, self-control. Ow.
Yeah. Like, and I feel like too, I'm kind of on a wellness journey, so to speak, right now too. And I've been just, you know, we kind of eat pretty well, and I'm a label reader, and we try to, you know, eat clean. But I've really kicked that up a notch and been very focused on certain aspects for myself and what that does just for my body to make me feel better. It's like, from a spiritual standpoint, it's all those things. It's all those things, because, you know, we are bodies, and our bodies are this vessel for the Holy Spirit, and all of it needs attention and care. And so I just feel like I've like acutely aware of what's going in. And I'm trying to keep in mind too the spiritual aspect. How much am I feeding on what the Lord has for me?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a place where I struggle, and like, you know, just to
turn,
just to turn off the monotony stuff and make time for those things. So I'm just, you know, we've been looking at all of that quite a bit, and I'm just like, what does that look like for you, to be able to, what does it look like when you feel like you're dining on the choices fare?
The good stuff.
Yeah, the best stuff. Because I feel like we touched on that a little bit in our collages. We were kind of trying, it was introspective space to try to figure out, what is it really that fuels our fire? What is it that lights us up? What gets us going? What gets us connected? How do we feel connected to our calling? And there were lots of different things that came up for me. You know, stuff about my home, stuff about family, taking, you know, traveling, adventures and things like that. And I think it is a weaving together of different things, different aspects of your life that kind of all need, you know, we feel like, oh, we need to address this one issue before we can get to the other. But I find frequently in life that leaves things imbalanced.
Yeah.
If you address one thing, and things tend to, pile on. So I feel like we as a family have been really introspective and really in prayer because we're fighting through some hard battles right now with our company, with some just familial stuff with kids and relational stuff and my marriage. I mean, it's just everything all at once. We've got some health stuff. So all of it is piling in. But I feel like if you can stay in a balanced place, if you can stay in a place of peace, it's kind of amazing how it will start weaving together. And you do have like a strange amount of ability to address the things, right? Start to address it slowly but surely. You know, sometimes it's like bite-sized pieces. And so I feel like we've been doing that in lots of areas of life right now. And it's been super life-giving, even in the midst of a pretty stormy season for our family. Somehow, like, I feel pretty good today.
All right. Well, his mercies are new every morning, so I love
they
that.
They are. It's a refreshment.
Yes.
And just remembering that you need to like go back to the well periodically. You know, you need to be doing that regularly so that you can stay steady.
Full of life.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one of the ladies in our group who identified within herself ways that were very powerful for her, and it would maybe be something totally different for other people. I'm not a runner. She started running and noticed that time she would spend it with the Lord as well as doing the physical for her own body. But it made her healthier. Her thoughts were more clear, she had said. Then she also stepped into more schooling.
Oh, yeah.
And finding out she was creating more potential within her as she's doing this. And it's pulled her away from being as much a part of our group, but it's where she is right now in her life. And it's a very important thing for her. And I think it's been really healthy, even though we don't get to see her very often. When we do see her, she looks strong. She seems more comfortable with who she is. And I think for me, sometimes I don't know what to eat at the table. You know, I just kind of, where am I right now? When I was a lot younger, I went through the same type of thing where I knew I needed to go back to school and needed to nourish my learning potential.
Right.
But I'm now retired, so I'm kind of trying to figure out, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, we find our identity a lot of times in what we do. And I did. I mean, my career was a very specific, intricate type of a job that definitely defined who I was. Out of that, I used to say things like, I love to solve problems. You know, that's a part of who I am. So it was fun being in that job. That was a nourishing thing for me.
Yeah, that's definitely problem solving.
Yeah, but I wasn't, I mean, now I'm not there. So I'm not real sure where I'm supposed to be eating and what I'm supposed to be handing out all the time.
Okay.
Which is kind of
That's
different.
fair. I feel like that's real. You know, we do
is.
go through those times.
I say yes when I see the opportunity. Like, we wanted to be part of our church when we moved here because we've only been in this area for about 2.5 years now. And by serving, I knew that we would get more connected in. And they asked us, well, where do you want to serve? And it's like, any place you need help. You know, we really were flexible enough to go, yeah, we can do this or we can do that. And I have learned about myself that I can do a lot of different things. And a lot of times I have to say no to some of those things to be able to do what I do need to do.
Right.
And that sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense. But so we are serving and meeting a need. And I know that feeds me as well as feeding other people, which is a good thing.
It is.
But not sure that that's everything.
Yeah.
Cynthia's
Well,
very clear in her mission in life.
mhm.
And I don't know if I've ever really been clear about what mine was. And here
Okay.
we are. Look at where we are today.
Yeah, but I feel like you do a lot. And I feel like you've been doing a lot creatively too, ever since we've been in the group and maybe reconnecting because I'm sure you just have more time, right? I
I
mean,
do. I
you
do.
you can do all kinds of things. You
I
can do
love
all kinds
I
of
love being creative.
crafty, creative, like amazing things. You guys should see all the stuff that she does. She knows
But
how to make
how does
soap.
that
She knows how to weave things and do all kinds of stuff. It's pretty
how
neat.
does that impact other people? And
I think
I
it
mean,
brings beauty, right? I mean, a lot of what we talk about here, and even just maybe it just heals things for you and gets you ready for next phases
maybe
too.
that's what it is.
I think sometimes
Yeah.
that is what it is, and I think there's just points where we're not sure or we feel like we're floundering. I feel a little bit like that in some aspects too, just because I'm at it for completely different reasons, but I'm at a place where my kids are finally all back in school.
Mhm.
And right about that time that was starting to happen, my mother was ill with ALS, and I was caring for her during the day. So, there's really just been over the past, I would say maybe 3 years that I've really just had time to be even introspective about, what is it that I want to do? What is my purpose here? And, being mother, being grandmother, being all those things are part of the puzzle, but it's not the whole thing, right?
True.
There's lots of threads that the Lord is weaving together to bring about who we ultimately will be. And we kind of talked last week a little bit about this notion of a tapestry, that there's these intricate weavings, and that no two people are the same. So our journeys, look really different, but there's so much richness in that variety, and I feel like that relates to the banquet table too, just the variety of stories, the variety of giftings and things that we can offer the world. The world would be super boring if everybody was the same.
True. True.
So she talks about trying to be like someone else does a real disservice to the journey you're on. And I think that is absolutely true, but we have so much knowledge of what everyone else is doing these days in ways that, I mean, I'm sure there's always been an issue with comparison. There's always going to be someone that has something or looks like something that you want to or whatever, right?
Well, and when you start getting that information without relationship, you get the distorted perspective of what other people are.
Right.
And that's really dangerous, trying to compare yourself to somebody without knowing their struggles and knowing a lot of times the history of how they got to where they're at.
Absolutely. Like, what did they battle before they got
Mm-hmm.
there, right? That's like profoundly true in an age of social media, right? Where you're seeing people's highlight reel most of the time, and you're comparing that with like your, terrible underbelly that you're experiencing behind closed doors or whatever that looks like for you in that, point in time. I think hopefully most people have enough, understanding that that is what you're seeing compared to, what's happening behind closed doors. But I think sometimes we forget, we think that what you're seeing, what someone's putting out there is the whole story, or at least the majority of it or something. And it definitely is not. And it can be really easy to compare ourselves, which is never good. And so we wanted to talk a little bit. We had touched on Psalm 139, and we read through that. And it's just basically talking about just how profoundly present, aware, and available the Lord is for us. I mean, I would say I don't know if you have another thought on what it's about, but it's like you can't get away from him in a good way. He's
Well, and
always
he
there.
is so involved in our lives,
Mhm.
whether we know it or not. But by taking the step back and thinking and resting in that knowledge,
Mhm.
it gives us a peace in the process
Yeah.
that if we're trying to do it and not recognizing the God of the universe who created everything is still very intricately involved in the weavings in our life.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, even the dark, the deep, all of the things, he's always there. Yeah, for darkness is light with you.
And he's always saying, listen, come, I'm knocking,
Mhm.
respond to me.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and she says, this is God's word, the beautiful poetry. This beautiful poetry is the truth about you in light of our God. As we let the truth of these words settle into our hearts, we realize that we were never meant to be like a cheap knockoff of someone else.
Right. The fullness of who he is in us creates that unique vessel
Right.
that can only touch certain people.
Yes, absolutely. And so what does that look like to identify and start walking in the things that he's calling you to do?
Sometimes it's turning off the TV.
Oh, yeah, I think that's probably huge.
Sometimes
Put your phone
it's
down.
turning away from even certain relationships to spend time with him instead of the relationships.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And she talks too about, do you believe that you're important to God? Do you believe that you matter to him and that he wants you to rest and he wants nourishment for you? It's like, oh, yeah, sometimes we forget that he's actually doing that. And that is why he's inviting us to the table all the time, right? That's why he's waiting there for us. I feel like we're like zooming past night and day, right? And he's just like, okay, so I've got this really nice spread here that's getting cold. When are you gonna?
Yeah.
When are you showing up for dinner?
I remember feeling guilty in resting when I was
feel
a
that
lot
sometimes.
younger, and knew that the Lord started talking to me about how that rest was really preparation for the next.
Yeah.
And
What's so true?
I couldn't do the next if I wasn't resting in him. And I mean, think of it. Jesus always would go away.
Yeah, he did.
And be with the Father to prepare for the next. So I was able to get rid of that feeling of guilt and got some good rest.
Yeah, that's huge because I mean, it is a commandment and we kind of like societally speaking, we just like zoom right past that too. Right along with Jesus at the table. I feel like we're just so apt to stay busy, right? And we think that, that's so valued. And frequently when your circumstances are piling up, you just really have no sense of when you're going to get to that. And I think that, that's why so many people recommend doing it first thing in the day, because it protects that space for you.
Having the time with the Lord.
Yeah, because it does order the rest of your day. Although I really struggle in this because my day frequently starts with little children needing things immediately.
Breakfast.
And all the things, like, I mean, a scramble out the door, but there is like kind of like I have a second part of my day where my day begins. There's like that's about them. And then there's a space where everybody gets out and there's an exhale and you're like, okay, now what?
Good.
Now what do you have for me, Lord? And just making sure that my to-do list doesn't suck me into that whole inertia, but that I actually take time to sit with him first. And I'm a work in progress in that.
Me too.
Yeah. So you were loving the emerging creativity, which is, a little excerpt that she does in some of the chapters where she highlights an artist or creative in their work. Sometimes it's, a painting or something like that, but this is a poem. So,
and I'm going to read it because it reminds us that we're all different places in our lives. And we need to listen to him to know what the next step is for us. So it's called Not Ready to Fly, and it's by Lori Newell. 3 dead birds on the sidewalk make me weep. Not yet old enough to have feathers to fly away from gravity, to escape the force that meant their end. Would that they had lived long enough to strengthen their wings, to keep receiving food from mother with wide open beaks, to chirp and chatter in the morning sky and be baby birds until it was the right time to leap. But it was not their time. And so do I weep? Do I wait for my time? Or do I leap while I still have no feathers nor strength to fly? Will I be content to stay in this nest until it's my time? That's the waiting and the resting often.
Right.
Just knowing that, even if we do see where he's calling us, the steps to get there aren't always real clear. And we have to wait until we really do know. And I think that's where I am kind of right now. I'm a retired baby bird.
You're figuring out where you're headed to next. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, I feel like I'm kind of in that season too, where things are beginning to shift. I have, my kiddos are getting more independent. And we're getting to a point where they will leave this nest. But I know Cynthia always says, I'm not empty and I'm not, or what does she say? Yeah. She doesn't like the empty nesters idea, because she's like, I'm not empty and this is not, and this is not a nest. Yeah. So this notion that like, no matter what season we're in, there's like purpose and fulfillment in every single one of them, and just kind of resting in that space in between as the Lord is sorting out the pieces for you and showing you what is going to be your next thing. And I think that largely is a huge space for self-care. It's not about nail polish and pedicures. It's, or bubble baths, like real, and not to say that you can't do those things, but real self-care is about actually sitting in a space where you can be nurtured by the Father and have enough peace so that, you can be still and know that he's God, and you can hear what his plan is for you and what he wants to have you do next. So I would just encourage you guys, if you have a nest moment out there, if you have a moment, you might not want to sit in that nest because you see all the things you want to fly to next. But we just hope that you would take an opportunity to be at rest and be and let those feathers develop and get stronger before you take off. So if you would like to just get some more info about these types of groups, or would like to start a group in your area, we would love for you to reach out to us. You can reach out to us at belovedunveiled@protonmail.com. That's belovedunveiled@protonmail.com. And just let us know too, what is it that you're doing for self-care? What are things that are nourishing you? Are there things that you're giving back to your community also? Because whenever we're refreshed, we can give back to others as well. And I think we forget that part. So I just hope that you have some moments of refreshment. You'll grab hold of it, maybe snuggling under some covers while it's chilly out.
So cold.
Yeah. Have a great week.